100 years ago, nobody had a car that could make it across the state line. No antibiotics.
There's no antibiotics here, no penicillin.
No air conditioning, and if you wanted hot water, well, you had to light a fire first. While people were cranking their cars by hand, somebody else was cranking a Victrola in their living room and calling it high fidelity. And 100 years later, Skynet's getting ready to take over the world, but audiophiles are still arguing about tubes versus transistors. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's look back on 100 years of hi-fi and see how much it's evolved. Or not.
I'm Scott Noon. I'm the CEO of Audio Advice. My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was 36 years old.
And I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man, and my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer this year. That's why I'm thrilled to be teaming up with Audio Advice to support this wonderful cause.
We're raising money for families with mothers battling cancer through the Helene Foundation. You'll see a link in the description that goes to a raffle page where we have tens of thousands of dollars of really cool headphones, speakers, projectors, you name it. And then Randy and I are going to do a live stream on October 30th where we're going to give it all away.
The sad reality is that we all know someone that has battled breast cancer. And this is your opportunity to make an impact on real people's lives. Whether you can give a little or a lot, you're going to make a difference. The 1930s, the Great Depression. Most people couldn't afford shoes, but yet somehow RCA convinced everybody that they needed hi-fi. Meet the RCA Model 245 Radiola, circa 1934. It was a giant wooden console that did two things. One, it played 78 RPM records. Two, it played AM radio, and it made you feel like you were living in the future. It also automatically changed records, which was basically witchcraft back then.
Witchcraft may be too harsh a charge.
It wasn't just loud, it was actually designed for fidelity. Basically looked like a coffin that made noise. And this, my friends, was the first lifestyle hi-fi product. Because high fidelity wasn't about sound, it was about class. And it worked. Middle-class families bought them by the truckload. It was basically the great-grandfather of every hi-fi console that came after it. But the 1930s, really just pre-game. Because when the war hit, well, that technology basically went to battle. The 1940s. Not only did the war reshape the world, it also reshaped sound. After the war, all that military tech, radios, radar, communications, suddenly didn't have anything to shoot at anymore, so it got redesigned for your living room. Bell Labs, Western Electric, the same companies that designed battlefield communications, started designing high-quality microphones, amplifiers, speakers, and one of them was the Western Electric 300B tube. Released in 1938 and still highly sought after by audiophiles today.
This is the Holy Grail.
It's like the holy grail of tubes. And then came Altec Lansing and JBL. Both of those were basically born out of wartime technology. And by the late 1940s, high fidelity actually meant something. This era was basically the birth of real consumer hi-fi, including the Heath kit. It was an amplifier that you could put together by yourself at home. It was affordable and people loved making them. Then came the Fisher Model 50-A. Even Macintosh got in the game early. And hi-fi wasn't just for hobbyists anymore. It became the centerpiece of post-war prosperity. The 1950s, the war is over. Suburbs are popping up. Everybody owns a house, has a yard, has a dog, and a brand new obsession. Hi-fi. And that's when the floodgates opened. Remember the Victrola from RCA? Yeah, those took over. Radio, records, and sometimes a built-in liquor cabinet. Because nothing says family time like bourbon and Bing Crosby. These weren't just gadgets, they were furniture. They were a flex. Polished wood, glowing dials, and a presence that said we can't afford a second car, but we can afford Perry Como in stereo. Then Harman Kardon created a stereo receiver. Everything in one box. Preamp, tuner, amplifier. The blueprint for every receiver that would follow. And the same year, Acoustic Research dropped the AR-1, the first acoustic suspension speaker. Now you didn't need a refrigerator-sized speaker to get real bass anymore. And now the middle class could really afford high fidelity. But once every living room had a record player, and a cocktail shaker, hi-fi had to evolve because people didn't want Frank Sinatra anymore. They wanted rock and roll.
Hey, Marantz tube stereo from the 1970s.
The 1970s, the decade where knobs got bigger, meters got brighter, and everybody thought they were sound engineers because they owned a Pioneer. Stereo separates exploded. Separate amplifier, separate tuner, separate record player, separate preamp, reel to reel, all wired together like an Apollo mission. Bigger was better, and if it didn't weigh 50 pounds or more and threaten your marriage, then it wasn't hi-fi. Monster receivers, wattage wars. This was hi-fi at its summit. But then something funny happened. Japan started making everything better. Smaller, cheaper. Suddenly anybody could afford good sound. You didn't need a trust fund or a tuxedo. But once everybody had hi-fi in their living room, somebody was like, hey, wait a minute, what if we could take music with us? And that changed everything.
They go mobile in 3 hours.
I have to go mobile.
Music finally broke out of the living room. You didn't have to sit still anymore. You had 8 tracks in your car that sometimes switched tracks just because.
It's an 8-track tape player.
The point was you weren't relegated to the living room anymore. And then came the cassette. It wasn't even designed for music, but it was co-opted for music because now you could fit an album in your pocket. And in 1979, Sony released the Walkman, and it changed culture forever.
As for the Walkman, people ask me all the time, what are you listening to?
The Walkman!
Suddenly, every teenager was a record producer because they were making mixtapes. Record labels freaked out and tried to destroy the format, but guess what? It didn't matter. The genie was out of the bottle. The kids had taken over. And then the boombox happened.
I gave up my boombox and Peter Gabriel tapes a long time ago.
And it would begin a proud moment of other people annoying other people in public, because now your music was a public event even if people didn't want it to be a public event. It's like somebody FaceTiming on their phone in the airport right next to you. This was the first time in history that you didn't have to sit in front of your music. You could live in your music. It was personal. It was private. It was an extension of who you were as a person. It was a fashion statement. And then analog met its shiny, laser-powered replacement, the compact disc. Perfect sound forever.
Compact disc MTV.
During the 80s and 90s, the future arrived, and it came on a shiny little disc, the compact disc, co-created by Philips and Sony. 70 full minutes of music perfection, or at least that's what Sony told us. Lasers, digital displays, and a sound so perfect it was sterile. Hi-fi gear slimmed down, everything went black, and it stopped pretending to be furniture. Some people said that digital music killed the analog soul of music. Other people said that this was awesome. Either way, the world, for the most part, had gone digital, and there was no going back. Maybe.
It's this new thing called Napster.
But it didn't matter who was right, analog or digital, because the computer was about ready to eat both of them alive. Napster, LimeWire, iPods. If the 70s were about collecting, the 2000s were about deleting. You could now steal an entire record collection in an afternoon and put it in your pocket. Sound quality dropped off, but nobody cared because convenience had won. Hi-fi stores started closing, home theater replaced stereos, and speakers became the size of golf balls. And audiophiles? Well, they retreated to their basement, muttering about dynamic range under their breath. Like hi-fi survivalists who had prepped properly and had 300 LPs. But the mainstream had moved on. Earbuds in, attention span out. But just when it seemed like high fidelity was dead, the internet accidentally brought it back. The 2010s to today. Well, we live in a weird time where you can stream anything losslessly, and yet half of us are buying and romanticizing vinyl and CDs. Streaming made music infinite. Vinyl made music matter. Now we have Bluetooth speakers that actually sound good and you can throw them into a pool because they're waterproof. We have $99 digital to analog converters which outperform 1990s studio gear. Hi-fi once again, isn't a luxury anymore. It's a hobby that anybody can afford. You can now combine a vintage Marantz receiver from the 70s with a Weems streamer and call it vintage modern. And nobody will laugh. You can share a playlist with your buddy across the world. We've reached this strange middle ground where nostalgia and technology coexist. They're like roommates, the odd couple. But maybe the biggest change isn't in the gear. It's in us. So hi-fi did evolve. The 1970s gave us a dream. The 2020s gave us access. You can basically stream any album ever made, or go to Walmart and buy a record. And then you can argue with a stranger about cables that lives in another hemisphere. And all of it for less than a mid-tier receiver from 1975. It's not about perfection anymore. It's about connection with you, with the gear, with the format of your choice. And this time, everybody gets a seat in the listening chair. We started with glowing tubes, and now we have glowing screens that you can put on glowing tubes. We traded furniture for firmware, but the goal has never changed. To feel something when the music hits. So whether you're streaming music from your phone or listening on a 65-pound record player, you are part of a 100-year hi-fi experiment, all chasing emotion from sound. It didn't peak in the 1970s. It's peaking right now. It just keeps reinventing itself, but yet maintaining the same technology from 100 years ago. What a crazy hobby. When technology advances with anything else, everything looks different. But yet with hi-fi, we still go back to our roots. And whether you're listening to vinyl or renting your music from Spotify, it's never been a better time to be an audiophile. If you like this video, make sure to check out my video on basically the punk rock history of Cambridge audio. I will put that right here. I'll also put the history of Yamaha right near. Did you know the guy that started Yamaha was the son of a samurai? And fate would have him created one of the biggest companies in Japan. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, maybe send it to a friend. Thank you so much for watching.